This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening to all members who have joined today's webinar, and a very warm welcome to our guest speaker, Mr. Madhavan Raghavendra. I'm Vijay Narayanan, VP Professional Development of the PMI Chennai chapter, and with me is Shyam Sundar, and we'll be the moderators of this session. This is the 13th webinar in the series of webinars since the lockdown. Once again, my sincere thanks to all chapter members for supporting this webinar series. Your constant support and encouragement has helped us to get better with the webinar series month on month now. As always, just a few quick housekeeping announcements before we get into this session. Please can I request everyone other than the speaker to be on mute throughout the session. Also, please turn off your video for a better webinar experience. One PDF will be provided to all attendees of this session. In case you've not received your PDF for the earlier sessions, please do get in touch with me. I will share a link to a feedback form for this session on the chat window later during this webinar. Please fill and submit the form so that your PDF can be processed without any delay. If you have any questions for the speaker, please post them on the chat window and we will cover them in the Q&A section at the end. Right, so let's get into the session. I will hand over to Mr. Shyam to introduce the topic and the speaker.
Thanks a lot, Vijay. Very good evening to all of you. As you all aware, today's session is on design thinking, concepts and tools. It came to my mind, when I listened to this subject, that recently I read an article on design thinking. Okay, so wherein I saw an interesting fact that the World Economic Forum, it's ranked 3 skills, which is problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. So these 3 skills as the top 3 skills an employee or employees needed to thrive in the workplace of the future or in the coming years. Okay, and it also says that these are the fundamental elements of any successful design thinking project as such. Okay, no doubt future of project management is deeply linked with this design thinking, so there is no doubt about it. So that's what it says. Doesn't that sounds exciting to all of us? Of course, right? Definitely. So let's hear more about this today from our chief guest, who is the speaker of today, Mr. Madhavan Raghavendra, who is with us today now. So to give a brief background about him, he is a seasoned IT professional having 20+ years of experience in IT domain. He is a lead product portfolio manager with Ford Motor Company and also serving as a president of International Institute of Business Analysis. He is a graduate of IIM Calcutta in Executive Business Management and a certified business analysis professional from International Institute of Business Analysis. And he is a certified Agile leader too. He is very passionate about coaching and mentoring. With that, I would like to invite Mr. Madhavan to take over the stage and teach us about the design thinking. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Shyam and Mr. Vijay. So hope I am audible.
Yes,
You are, sir.
Loud and clear.
Right? Okay, fantastic. Yeah, okay. Right, thank you. So really good to see 62 people Saturday evening, despite having a double header happening in IPL. So this is excellent to see so much of people interested to have this learning and connecting sessions. So excellent job from PMI, and thank you so much for inviting me. So I think it's an excellent heads up what Mr. Shyam gave. So he talked about a key thing called problem solving skills, right? Creative thinking and problem solving skills. So that's going to be kind of a basis for today's session. Okay. So probably I will take around 30 to 35 minutes. Then you can post your questions and I'll try my best to answer. So what I am intending to cover in today's session is get some overview. Again, it's a big topic. It's just too short time to cover it in 60 minutes. So I'll just try to cover the overall concepts and the various stages or phases involved in the design thinking, and also try to introduce 3 tools that we can use or practice during this design journey. So that's kind of the plan. So with that, I'll just move on. Right. Okay. So these two interesting pictures, right? So the one you see on the left-hand side puts the firm in the center, right? So puts the organization in the center, and then the user or customer is kind of revolving around that. But what's the image on the right-hand side? It puts the user or customer in the center, and then the firm revolves around the customer. So what basically it tries to convey is it's all about the customer, right? So the organizations exist because we have customers, and why we create some softwares, right? So basically it's to solve some problem. There is some problem or opportunity somebody is facing, and we wanted to solve this as an IT department. So it's all about having the individual or a group of customers in the middle, and then have the other processes or whatever it is around the customer. So this kind of, I picked up this from one of the interesting article related to Agile, but it kind of very nicely resonates to the design thinking as well as the whole software development. So I thought I could get started with, right. Okay, so what is design thinking, right? I don't want to read the slide, but it is pretty much a human-centered approach, right? So if you could see the highlighted text in my slide, it's a human-centered approach. It basically has the people as the core, and then it looks at the possibilities of technologies. Then how could we solve the business problem? That's fundamentally it is all about people. How could you identify your customer? How could you understand his problems, pain points, and then how could we resolve it, right? See, the other important thing I would like to kind of tell upfront is, um, assuming majority of the people here are from IT, so design thinking is kind of not specific to any roles. So you could be a project manager, you could be a product manager, scrum master, software engineer, or people leader, anything. So design thinking is not like only a business analyst should do design thinking, only a product manager should do design. Absolutely not. It's kind of open to any individual, and it's not only relevant to IT. So it's even relevant to non-IT. It's even relevant to an individual. So as an individual, we have some personal problem. So we could even use the concepts of design thinking. So pretty much role agnostic. It works to everyone, right? So okay, so when we can apply design thinking, right? Is there any specific scenarios where we can apply? So pretty much where there is a lot of uncertainty, right? So you would have heard about this term VUCA, which refers to the volatility, uncertainty, complex, and ambiguity. So we see this in our business scenarios, right? It's very volatile, especially with the situation where we are in with the COVID pandemic. It's uncertain, so we don't know how the situation changes over the period of time. Pretty complex, and there is lot of ambiguity, right? So it's very difficult for us to clearly tell that there's a plan. So it keeps changing. So wherever there is things are a bit uncertain, it's a good candidate to apply design. So the next one is your problem space, right? So not all problems are very structured problems, right? There are two types of problems. You have a structured problem, you have an unstructured or semi-structured problems. So structured problem is something like, you'll just go by the instructions to solve it, right? Okay, this is the problem. Then I know like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll do this, the problem gets fixed. But in terms of a semi or unstructured problem, um, it needs a lot of effort, even to understand what is the problem, right? So the COVID itself is a good example, right? So any other diseases, whether it is diabetes or whatever it is, now that you know, right? Okay, so this is the problem. Okay, once the CT scan or whatever my blood reports is, I know what to do. But that was not the case when the COVID struck. We are slightly getting better, but still, right? We clearly don't know what this problem is all about. Took a lot of time for the various people to analyze, put some efforts, even to understand the problem. So whenever you think there is a lot of effort to be put on the problem space where things are not clear, that's a good candidate to apply design. And of course, when the solution path is not clear, right? So even after knowing the problem, it's not like, okay, I have 1, 2, 3, I can just go and tick a particular solution. Sometimes that's not there. So that's also a place where you can apply design. So wherever things are uncertain, wherever the problem needs a little bit more digging, and wherever the solution path is not clear. So that kind of forms a fundamental candidates for design. Right. Okay. Um, so like anything, right? So even you take Agile, there may be a lot of tools. There may be a lot of methodologies. You can call it Scrum or Kanban or SAFe, but ultimately Agile is a mindset. So there may be like, you can use Rally, you can use Jira, you can put a lot of tools, but unless we have this mindset, it's pretty difficult to get succeeded. So design thinking is also similar. So the mindset comes before we think of anything else. So that's where I wanted to focus on the key mindset first. So empathy, right? So empathy is about focusing on the human values. So simply, all would have heard, how could I put myself into somebody else's shoes and look it from their perspective? So I may be right, but what no other person's viewpoint or the problem he's facing, it's good to empathize to get some more insights. Next one is experimentation, right? So are we willing to try out? So not necessarily we will succeed the first time, but is there a willingness to give it a try and embrace the ambiguity? So the experimentation mindset is quite critical when it comes to design thinking. So it is not like you just do a big bang launch, everything is going to go okay. No, so probably take it into some smaller chunk of work, give it a shot, experiment it, see how it works, and then the important thing that comes out of that is the learning, right? So even it could be just a week of work that we do, but if it is going to give us some learning, learn from that, and then take the next step based on the learning. So that's about experimentation. Make it, show, don't tell, right? So this is kind of relates to the agile mindset as well. Prefer action over discussion, right? So if you want to convey some ideas, instead of presenting some PPTs or whatever it is, it's better to kind of do some simple prototyping and show it to the people, how it is working, rather than having a lot of text to explain. It takes very less time and efforts to put it in front of them and okay, just play around this, right? So it could be an online ordering, customer ordering screen, for example. Instead of explaining them through some flow charts, how this works, you log in here, you go here, just give the tool to them. Let them go and figure out. And that's where we'll come to know, oh, this is the area where people are feeling happy. This is the area where needs some improvement, and this not at all work, right? So that's very important in that. Learn from failure. Yes. So as I reflected on the experimentation point, it's the whole point of experimenting is what's the learning that is coming out? How could we improve on this? So any example we can take. So even the webinars that we are all conducting in various chapters, we are learning every webinar. We are learning something, whether it is technical or whether it's sorry, is there any question? Okay.
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah, right. So every webinar we learn something. So whether it's a technical thing or whether the approach, whether the timing of the webinar, so there is learning coming with the valuable feedback that participants are giving. So it's not like one particular session didn't succeeded. It's not bad. So we learn something from it, and then they try to corrective measures. So the last one is collaboration, right? So keep iterating. So it's iterating. So that's where the value comes. So collaborate with the right stakeholders, and then keep repeating until you have some the valid solution. So these 5 mindsets forms the basis of how we could drive the design thinking. Again, so the design thinking is an attitude, right? So that really helps us to get unstuck. So it's not a tool, it's not a methodology. It's more about how we think. We could even do it without any tools. It's just about how we get started, right? Move on. So what are the lenses of design thinking? So what are the key things that we need to worry about? The first one is desirability. So are we creating something that generates value to the people? Is it really going to be useful to them? Are they going to be happy using it? And then the feasibility, right? Can it be done? So you could relate it with the definition in the first slide. So is the technology good enough to? I may have great ideas, but do we really have the technology to support our ideas? So then viability, right? So does it make business sense in terms of the sustainability, the funding? Because nothing comes free. Right? If we have to create something, we have to make some investments. So how these three kind of converges is very important. Whether we have understood the value proposition, whether we understood the technology feasibility, and how long we will sustain with the funding aspects or whatever it is. So it's important to look through these three lenses. Right. Okay. So then there are some specific steps how we could take this design thinking forward. So emphasize is where we start. Define the problem. Ideate, prototype. In case if it again you have to go back to ideate, yes, ideate again, have the prototype, test it again until you find some kind of workable solution. So we will take a look at the details of these steps. Okay, so before that, I just want to talk about this divergence and convergence. So there are a couple of things, right? So first one is finding the right problem and then finding the right solution. So what divergence means here? So when the initial discussion happens, right, so there will be lot of ideas or lot of viewpoints coming. So it will be more like you diverge. So let's say it's a team of 10 people sitting together and trying to define a problem. There will be so many thoughts coming. So it's basically all about emotions. People have their own say. So there, the quantity of the viewpoints are more important rather than the quality. So allow it to diverge, and then we have to convert. So now there are like 100 viewpoints have come. Now how I'm going to pick a few. So converge, probably pick the one that provides the maximum pain points, or identify the one that has the maximum pain points, then converge into a manageable chunk. So that's from a problem standpoint. Okay, now we narrowed down. So we started with 10 or 100 problems, and we narrowed down to 5, which we believe is going to fall under the desirability bucket. So if I fix this, it's kind of 80-20 rule, right? If I fix this, this is going to give me a maximum benefit. Then you move on to the solution part. Same thing happens. So we start getting a lot of ideas about solutions. So when you do a brainstorming, people come up with a number of solutions. So then yes, you diverge where the quantity of ideas are more important. Then at a point in time, yes, we narrowed down to the best possible solution. So this is kind of, if you browse through the net, it is also called as a double diamond, where you take this process of diverging and then narrowing. Okay, so let's go to this specific steps or stages. So I have just categorized this into what, why, and how. So what we do in the empathize, right? So the empathize is all about how we engage and observe the target audience. So basically, it is you will come up with creating a user persona. So a lot of things about the users that we can understand. So their preferences, their pain points, their demographics. So how they perceive about few things, go and share things with others. So it's not just about one factor. There is a lot of factors that we can understand using this persona. So why we want to do? So to better understand about the people, to better understand about the group that is having this problem. So what are their needs? What are their expectations? That's the whole point of doing this activity. How we can do this? We can do some interviews. So it could be like in-person interviews, or we could also send out some surveys asking some specific open-ended questions so that we get more. Instead of asking a close-ended question, prefer to have an open-ended question. And observations is a fantastic technique. So either it could be an active observation or it could be a passive observation. So what I mean is active, you can ask questions. So for example, you pick a specific group of people. You can go sit with them for 2 weeks and actually see what they are doing, where they are having problems. If it is a monthly process, payroll, whatever. Sit with them and see right from day one, end to end. So again, the most important thing is to understand end to end. So where they start, where they complete, and in between, what are the stages that they go through. You can interrupt and ask questions. Otherwise, at least just have an observation. So when we do this, what comes out is a solid persona, where we will be able to better understand about the group of individuals, our target audience. So that's why it's kind of at the beginning. So once you have divide, right? So I mean, as I said in the previous slide, right? So this is the convergence phase. So during empathize, it's you would have heard a lot of things. So people say hundreds of problems they face. So define is coming up with a very clear problem state. So people who worked in agile, it's like how you define a feature, right? understanding the clear problem statement, it's hitting the right user. As we start writing the user story as a user, so that's kind of gets the feel to the customer. Yeah. So the what here is to come up with a clear problem statement. So why we want to do this, right? So this gives us the fixed goal to focus and address a specific challenge. So otherwise, it's like a lot of big list. So how are you going to narrow this focus and say, okay, in one release, in the next 3 months, this is the specific challenge that I am going to address through either through improving the process or either through getting some software in whatever solution I find. But then I narrowed down to a specific goal. So how we can do it? It's all about framing a problem statement. A problem statement should be human-centered. So it should be broad enough for creativity, yet specific enough to provide a direction and guide. We don't want to be too much prescriptive. Let's say you probably as a product manager or as a business analyst, you frame a problem statement, and then your development team is going to work on. They should have enough um, to have their own creativity in terms of coming up with this. Don't have to be too much prescriptive about what it is. The key thing is which particular group or the user you are hitting. That has to be clear. So coming up with a clear problem statement is important. So now you empathized. We looked at a group. We diverged. Then we defined a problem statement. And the next step is to ideate. So here we are talking about ideas. So generate as much ideas as possible and potential solutions as possible. So this is again go diverge. So why we do this? To explore new creative ways of solving the problem. So this is something where the creativity of the individuals comes into play. I understood the problems. So what are the various means that I can solve? So how we can do that? Simple thing is brainstorming. Have a group of people sharing their views. So again, give the importance of the quantity initially rather than quality. Reverse thinking is an interesting technique. So normally what we do, right? So I'll just take a simple example. How we want to improve the experience of patients in a clinic. This could be a question that you can throw, and then you can ask people to share the ideas. Maybe yes, people will come up few things, and in case if they run out of ideas, the other way to take this is ask the question in a negative way, right? So how can you make the experience of patients very worse in a clinic? That's the question. So this has a little bit towards the neuroscience factor as well. So we tend to get more inputs when something is not right. So we are more attracted towards the negativity rather than positivity in general. So I'm not saying any specific, in general. So the question like this, right? So list down the things that makes a patient not happy. Yeah. So don't open the clinic on time. After opening the clinic, don't give a specific time when the doctor is going to come. Don't give a clear answer, and not having a or don't have a proper token system. So it's impossible to identify who has come and who is going to go next. Right. So now the solution that you provide is actually a reverse. Now we have said your first problem is don't open the clinic on time. The solution is to ensure the clinic opens on time. Have a proper answer that the doctor is on the way, is going to come in another 20-30 minutes, and then have a proper token system which identifies this person has come first. So in that way, it really helps. So I've personally tried this couple of times. So initially, people may think this is a bit wild. So what is this you're asking? But then it helps to gather more ideas. That's way. It's an interesting thing. It's also otherwise called as reverse brainstorming. Right. So now we ideated, right? So we ideated and we got a lot of ideas. But now we have to pick up, right? So we have to pick up the few, and very important, turn them into a prototype. This is where we converge. So prototype again, probably I'll cover it in the how, but I just want to mention it's not necessarily a tool. It could be even some kind of a paper diagrams or models, whatever way we can take this, but certainly not to the extent possible, certainly not a flowchart, certainly not a PPT. So something they can use, they feel, right? So it's more about their emotions. They feel that this is working for me. So why we do this? It's tangible, right? So it is testable with the users. So this is a fundamental thing about even when we work on Agile, features or a story. It is qualified only when it is testable. Have some means to test this and get the feedback. So how depends, right? So ranges from the basic models to interactive digital versions. So kind of my personal recommendation is we probably don't have to spend too much of time. So what happens in prototype is it really gives us an idea whether we can go or not. It's like something you can make an investment, or is it going to be totally scrapped, or it's more like whether you want to pivot, whether you want to preserve, whether you want to persevere. So it's kind of three terms that we use in the typical product development. Really want to pivot means take a different route, it's not working, or you want to stay with that. So you don't have to spend too much of time or tools. Try to get it as early as possible, and also have an end-to-end view. So it's important to have an end-to-end view. So here we don't really have to worry about the interfaces. I'm just talking in terms of IT, where the data is going to come, where the data is going to go. That's not the, this is not the place for that. So those can be figured out later in our. So here the whole point is, am I proving the capability, right? So a lot of other things, yes, security is important. A lot of other things are important, but the focus here should be end to end. Is this fits to your problem? Is it solving your problem? That's the right. Okay. So after we prototyped, converged again, so then it is test. So testing the prototypes on real users. So it's an important term called real users, because in the agile world we have this role called product owner, probably a representative of a group. But in many cases, he may not be the real user. If you are creating a product or a service, he is probably not going to use. The people who are actually on, so it's always better to give the prototypes to the real users, because they are the one have problems. They know how it is going to work, and it's like they understand the market complications. There could be a lot of legal regulatory differences between one market to other market, so they know better than anybody else. So this extreme user or real user, taking this tool to them is extremely important. So why? Yes, we have to get feedback before making any huge investments. So it's important to keep the short feedback loop. Again, that's the difference between our waterfall way of working and agile. So where we used to go after 3 months or 4 months and get the feedback. So here it is extremely short. It could be even a week or two. Even a small thing that's been done, it's important to go and do it. So this is what we have done. This is the extent that we have progressed. Are you happy now? So if not, yes. So let's stop. Let's pivot. So the advantage is, right, you kind of reduce the investments, or you try to limit the investments of time and money. Yeah, verbal feedbacks. We can also go with surveys because co-location is also a factor. So not everybody are going to be in the same, but that's not going to stop, because what we are going to provide is only the working software. And from an IT term, the best thing that we can put in front of the user is the working software that we can. Right. So before I move on to the next one, I just want to quickly summarize. So start with empathize, understand the big picture, understand the pain points. So then go on to define the problem in a much better understandable way, and then ideate as long as you have then develop a prototype, and then test it with the real users. Right. So how we are doing in terms of time? Okay.
Yeah, we have another 23 minutes.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to talk about few of the tools that will help in doing all these things. So, but anyway, as I mentioned, it's all about how we think, but still we need something on paper. So this is called customer journey wheel. So as you know, as you see here, it starts with the who. Who is the persona? We already have a persona. It's just about attaching the persona here, telling who is this guy, description, and a short story about him. So then it's really important you see the pre, during, and post. This covers the entire cycle of end to end. You start understanding from the uh, initial step. So let's take a simple example of a shuttle service. So, um, so the shuttle arrives at say 9 a.m. So you could even have this journey map starting to understand what the customer does from 6 a.m. So from since alarm goes, so what is he doing? Getting up, getting ready, probably goes for a walk, and then gets his family ready. So all these things happens around 9 a.m. And then that's where he's going to get into the service. So your shuttle service. Then you take him to a spot. Then what happens post, right? So you drop him, and then he gets into the office. And then same thing happens in the evening where he does all his work, and then gets into your service. You drop him at the home. So what we can try to understand when we speak in an empathize mode, so where he's feeling frustrated, where he's feeling happy, where he's feeling indifferent, and then what are the pain points, what are the opportunities. So the opportunities could be in the pre-phase, the opportunities could be exactly when the service is used, or it could be in the post. So we could even do some fundamental things, or even we can do something beyond. So for example, in the pre-phase, more like giving an SMS that the vehicle is like another 15 minutes, you will get the vehicle, right? So be ready. So he is still not into your service, but it is kind of giving him an heads up to get ready. And then during the service, yes, it's all about having a good bus with Wi-Fi, good air conditioner, and then the bus takes time and all those things. And then what's the post, right? So just probably give him a message, have a good day, thanks for using the service, so have a good day. Similarly, when it comes in the evening, so in case if there is any change of slots, so normally the car parks the vehicle parks in a specific place, going to change. It's really important to keep them informed. And then yes, similar service going back, and probably like just giving a positive message that hope you had a good day, just relax, something like that. Or it's all about how the team thinks about where they can have some up. But the priority is to understand at which point in time he feels frustrated, and where he already happy or what he expects. That really so kind of completes the full cycle. It's a good easy tool to use. Then I want to talk about the BMC. This is the tool from a company called Strategizer. So this really helps out to map out a strategy. So it could be for a startup, or it could be for any investments that you want to make. So it has a 9 blocks, but there is a specific sequence that we need to look at. It's not like from right to left or left to right. It starts with customer segments. So second is value proposition, channels, customer relationship, price, revenue stream. And also, if you just put an horizontal line, the right hand side is more about the market, and the left hand side is more about the product or the service. So that's another simple way to understand this. So the best example I can take is like from a chapters like so what's our business model, right? So what's our BMC? So who are our customers? So take from an IBA chapter, is the business analyst or product managers, or who are PMIs, project managers. So identifying the customer segments is very important, like who are our customers. So what value we are going to provide? So like webinars like this, study groups that we do, are some of the events like the BA days or PM days, whatever it is. What's the value proposition we are? The channel is how are we going to do it? So now that a lot of things are like most of the things are online, but once the things gets better, are we going to handle face-to-face sessions, or is it going to be a webinar, or is it going to be an article, blogs, whatever it is, how we are going to deliver this, and then what type of relationships that we are going to establish. So it's more of the membership. The relationship between an individual and the chapter is the individual becomes a member, or the individual some point become a mentor. So it kind of then the revenue streams, right? So few webinars are paid events where the chapter gets money. Few webinars are free. Identifying. So once we have this, so then assume this is more of a chapter activity, right? So key resources. So how many people we need in the chapter? So we have some roles, right? So the VP, professional development, marketing, membership. So what are the activities that the chapter needs to take care? Every month, if you want to do a webinar, meet on a weekly basis, align on the topics, and then the infrastructures like do you need a GoToWebinar, or do you need a Zoom? So what are the things that we need to do? Then the promotions that we all need to do, put it in the LinkedIn, Facebook. So all these things forms a key activity. Then what are the key partners? You really want to engage somebody else, or it is just going to be within this. So what we see now itself is a partnership, right? We are engaging 2 chapters. Syed came and helped the IABA, so a good partnership. And then what is the cost structure? So yes, what you have to spend. So in case if it is going to be a online, in case if it is going to be a face-to-face, you probably have to pay rent. So anything else that you want to give some gifts to the participants, what's the cost, right? It's going to incur. So that's how the business model helps. So you just Google, there are a lot of business models you can see. The business model of Ola, Uber, everything is quite good to understand how they have come up with their models and kind of strategies. Right. So the next tool is the empathy map. So it is pretty much used in the first stage. So again, put the customer in the front. So it is an individual or a group. So what are the things we can try to understand, right? So what he thinks and feels. So what is important to him? What are his aspirations? What he is worried about? So what he is seeing, right? What is his environment is all about? What his peers say? What he is hearing? So where he is getting influenced? What the friends, family, and influencers are saying. So who is actually influencing whom? Is there any impact from other medias, etc., etc.? And then what he is saying and what he is doing. So what is his behavior? Right? What is his attitude? How they act in public. So it's all about understanding this, and then trying to get list down the pain points. So what are the frustrations? All those things, and then what the success looks like. So So the one key point here is this is more a tool that is needed. You can just assume it like taking notes, because one thing people kind of assume is this is something we can review, right? No, it's not to review with anybody. So you cannot just show this to the person and say, now this is what we understood about you. You can no, it's not like a sign off document. This is more for us to keep it as a notes, and then how it reflects is basically on how we proceed with the various stages. So it helps in your it's quite a fantastic tool. So I've personally used and got some benefits. Yeah, so I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to share and everyone. So I also added some references. Um, so designkit.org is a fantastic resource where we can learn about the mindsets and the various stages. So IDEO is kind of a premier in this, and also identified some of the TED Talks, and this site is also quite.
Please, can you repeat that book again? So I'll just type it on the chat window for participants.
Sorry, I just mentioned about these three only. So the other one is a TED Talk. So there are a lot of TED Talks available.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
From a book point of view, sorry, I didn't mention here, but there is a book from Eric Rice called Lean Startup. That's a very good book. It's a very famous book. It's from Eric Rice. So it talks about the fundamentals of all these. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Madhavan. That was really insightful, and thank you for taking the time. And it was wonderful to learn a lot of design concepts and tools. There were a lot of gems that you've actually scattered during your presentation. Some of the things that I'm able to recollect are design thinking is the narrative, which is a big statement. And I think secondly, you said that there are three lenses for design thinking: durability, visibility, and viability. Again, that's a wonderful way of embracing design thinking. Divergent thinking before you converge. I think again that's a key concept for design thinking. It's applied in many of the designs, right? By the startups and entrepreneurs in this day and age. And also, I think finding the right problem before finding the right solution. I think that's the wonderful thing to bear in mind before we start design thinking. So thank you. There are a few questions. I'd like Shyam to take over to, if you wouldn't mind answering those questions.
Sure. Try my best. Shyam, you are on mute.
You're on mute, Shyam.
Yeah, one of the questions from Mr. Anand Ahuja is about, could you suggest some good books to read for gaining more knowledge on design thinking? I think you covered it, but you want to add anything?
Nothing much, because I referred only some of these sites. Book perspective, it's the Lean Startup by Eric.
Okay.
That was a good one.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so the next one is from Mr. Senthil Kumar. He said he's from a manufacturing industry background. To my knowledge, the term agile is mostly referred in IT or software industries. Could you please tell me that for other non-IT industries, any specific name or the term alternate to agile is used, or an alternate to agile way of working has been adopted in non-IT industry?
Yeah, so one thing I could recollect is the lean thinking. So the lean, especially in the manufacturing, they go with the lean. So it's more about like eliminating the waste. So what are the things that we need to stop doing? So which becomes the process much leaner. Lean is a good way to understand.
Okay, that's great. Okay, another question is from Sauman. It's a great presentation. He said, design thinking is definitely an alternative, iterative way of product development. Can we consider the same as agile product development, or there is something, some difference between these two approaches?
Okay. So in terms of how we approach an agile development, we can use these principles. Again, it's all about the mindset, right? So how we want to start our agile product development. We don't have to specifically say that, okay, so the next 5 months I'm going to do a design thinking. No, it's not that way. So it just happens quite naturally, right? So organically you start doing this by practice. So I would say it applies even in the agile development, even in non-agile. It's just about how we approach the problem, right? So pretty much yes.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, the next one is from Mr. Rajiv Rajan. In the reverse thinking, we need to start with the negative thinking or with the statement more with negativity.
Okay, so it's about the question what you ask. So for example, the when we go for a brainstorming, so there will be some discussion topic, right? So I'll just go back to the same example, right? So in a typical brainstorming, you could probably ask, okay, now we have another 30 minutes. Can we generate the ideas how we could make the patient experience in a clinic such a happy, wonderful experience? So that's our normal way of doing it. But in the reverse thinking, we do everything same, 30 minutes, same people, but then we ask, the next 30 minutes, I would like to gather ideas about how could we make the experience of the patient worse. So the question for the session changes. Then you gather ideas. Then what we do is, when the solution, you put opposite to what you gathered. So that's the key difference. So in a typical brainstorming, you actually go, whatever you gather, you go and try to put it. So here, you understand the few things, but when we approach a solution, just to opposite of.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, the next one is from Mr. Ramakrishnan Manavalan. What is the difference between critical thinking and design thinking?
Okay, so to be honest, I'm not that much familiar with the critical thinking, so I really don't want to compare these two. So basically, kind of relates with the way we approach and the mindset, but there could be some specific steps involved in the critical thinking. So without much knowledge, I really don't want to come.
Okay. Mr. Shantakumar is asking how different the design thinking from TRIZ.
What is TRIZ?
Yeah. Mr. Shantakumar, can you just elaborate in the chat window what is TRIZ? What you're trying to, or can you rephrase the question? Okay. Okay, while it's coming up, okay, he's saying theory of inventive problem solving. Theory of inventive problem solving.
Okay, absolutely. See, this is design thinking is all about being innovative, right? So once you understand the problem, it's all about put your creativity and come up with innovation. So it's again, one more thing is, when we say innovation, normally we think about building app, right? So putting a lot of technical investment, not necessarily. So invention could be even you try stop doing something, and that also becomes an the innovation. So absolutely right. It's design thinking is very much related to how we are innovative in our solution.
Okay. Okay, this is from Sauman. I'm not sure this is the question or he's just trying to clarify. He says, TRIZ solves the contradiction inherent in the problem statement.
Okay.
Maybe he's adding to that.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone? Any questions coming up?
Yeah, thank you, Shyam. Thank you. I think, yeah, we've had a good interactive session there.
Yeah.
I wanted to just wrap up and thank Mr. Madhavan for this wonderful session. There's been a great feedback from people who attended this webinar. Close to 80 people actually attended this webinar at one point in time. So I'm really grateful for people who attended this webinar and participated and interacted with us. And once again, thank you, Mr. Madhavan, for this wonderful session. I will send you this e-memento, and if you could share it on your social media channels, it would be really much appreciated. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vijay.
Thank you once again
for giving this great opportunity. It's fantastic interacting with the people. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to thank a couple of people who made this webinar possible. Firstly, Shyam for moderating this session, and also volunteer Aparna for updating the website. So thank you once again, volunteers, and people who wish to volunteer for such webinars in future, please do get in touch with us, and more the merrier. So on that note, thank you. Enjoy the rest of Sunday, and hope to see you in the next webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.